Basically what I want to talk about today, feeling a little under the weather, not anything crazy, but just a little cold. And I get questions all the time, how am I supposed to train if I'm feeling sick, or what should I do? And so there's some basic principles that you can follow, one of which is go lighter than usual and use kind of RPE to guide your training. In the coaching that I do, I always use RPE, so it's pretty easy adjustments to make. Basically, you just take the RPE you're going to work at and you subtract 2 or 3 from it. So if you're going to do an 8, work with 6s. And again, because you're sick, you're not going to be at your like 6s that you would do on your best day ever. You know, you're going to be feeling like the weights are moving slower and things are a little off. So you're probably going to end up at like a 4 or a 5 RPE of what you would normally do, which is basically off the RPE scale. You're going to be using something like 70% or 75% of the loads that you would have been using if you were doing an RPE 8, because you're going to be using, you're just going to be using less. And that's one of the ways to deal with being sick. The other way, like me, if you're close to a competition and you really need to still hit numbers and work through, if you don't have a fever, again, you got to make sure you don't have something that's actively, could turn into something dangerous. But if you've got a cold, you got a sore throat, you got a body ache, you go in, you warm up slowly, and then you just take what's there that day. You obviously don't want to push and miss a lift. That's the worst thing that you can do, because that's going to impact your recovery poorly as well. But you can kind of work up to what your normal weights would have been. Again, I like RPE training because today, to work up to a single at about RPE 7, 7.5, maybe a little bit of bar speed slowing, but not much. Probably under my opener by about 3 or 4%. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. But if I feel awful, if I feel terrible, guess what? I'm just going to call it off. I'm not going to work so hard that I'm actually going to injure myself, because that's the most counterproductive thing I could possibly do. Getting a little bit off schedule, maybe pushing a day of training from Tuesday to Wednesday, that's basically going to have zero impact on your results. Even skipping a day, really, in the grand scheme of things, what does skipping a day mean? Especially if you're early in a training cycle, you could probably take off half a week if you needed to get over something. But sometimes you can still get into the gym and still do what you can, and that's what I'm doing today. So we're going to see how that goes. I'll kind of keep some videos probably going over this talk already with some of my warm-ups, but we'll see where the weights end up at the end, and probably give you a couple more updates just as I go through the workout, what I'm thinking about, and how I deal with training while I'm a little under the weather. Things are going pretty well so far. Got no complaints other than my back feels a little tighter than usual. It's a little bit hard to brace all the way I would like anyways. My SI joint is just a little aggravated. But I haven't had any form breakdown really. Everything feels okay. I'd say 90-95%. So this is supposed to be my last warm-up, but maybe the last single I do today, depending on how it goes. This is 6:15. So I guess we'll see. It's one of those things where I'm making a pretty big jump in between my warm-ups right now, about 50 pounds per jump. So I've taken a couple extra smaller jumps. Usually I go up, I'll jump plates up to about 5 plates, but I added in another rep there just to kind of take things slow and feel it out. But yeah, definitely wouldn't be a good day to max, but seems like things are going pretty well so far. So we'll see how this next single goes here in a minute. So as you can probably tell, a little bit of that voiceover was done on 2 weeks out. This video goes through weeks 3, 2, and 1. But wanted to talk about being sick. Was really happy with how 6:55 ended up moving there. It was way better than the week before. I misgrooved the 6:55 from earlier in the video. I think it was the second squat that I had shown here. Really got over to the right. And this 6:55 moved quite a bit better. I kind of, for whatever reason, 5:65 just seemed to be the back-off number for almost all of the days in this training cycle. But I didn't do the same number of back-off sets each week. Volume increased until about 3 weeks out and then started to decrease. On this particular day, bench felt pretty darn good. 4:55 moved very well, and 4:05 here
for the back off work also moved well. Bench had felt really off for most of the training cycle actually, and just started to feel better recently. So now no longer sick, no longer really dealing with a cold. This was my final week's workout. You see my training partner over there in the corner, hanging out with Dad in the garage. So she's a good sport, puts up with me, and things were moving pretty well this day. I'd been off on my squats, as you saw earlier with the first 655. Things came back better the next week, and then on this day, things were moving very well. I was pleased with it. Didn't have that SI joint pain that I was dealing with earlier, and feeling pretty healthy and ready to go all the way into the Arnold. This is the top squat from the day because this is Monday of the week of the meet. So this is a Monday workout for a Saturday meet. Took 6:15 for my final single, and it moved very fast, as fast as weights move when they're in the high fives or low sixes. Even when they move fast, they don't move that fast. But I'm still fairly happy with how that one went. 4:15. Real smooth, easy single, and happy with how that moved. I wanted to skip up a little bit in First John. I know I've been trying to go through First John for a while now and haven't been as frequent with videos as I would like, but this is something that I've been hitting from a couple of different angles. It's a challenging passage, and there's some different translations. There are some issues on it. This has been taken out of context by some people, especially where it talks about no one who lives in him keeps on sinning. And depending on how you interpret that, it could mean that if you're not really a Christian or you're not a follower of Christ unless you're living in sinless perfection. I don't actually think that's what this is teaching at all, and I'll show what I mean. I think the translations where it gets that ongoing nature, keeps on sinning, is important. But in any case, everyone who sins breaks the law. In fact, sin is lawlessness. But you know that he, that is Jesus, appeared so that he might take away our sins, and in him is no sin. No one who lives in him keeps on sinning. No one who continues to sin has either seen him or known him. And what I liken this to, I work with children at a church, and what I liken this to is if you have a bully and they say, they're sorry for what they did, and then the next day they bully you again, and as they're beating you up, kind of punching you while you're on the ground, every time they punch you, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then they punch you again, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that," and then they punch you again, and "Oh, I'm sorry," and this just keeps going on. Basically, you know that they're not really sorry. Basically, you know that no matter what they say, their actions speak differently. I'm a fan of the quote, "Your actions are so loud I can't hear what you're saying." And I think that really holds true in life. And I think that's what John is getting at here. That those who say that they are Christians, those who say they are followers of Christ, if they are not following Christ, then they're liars. They haven't seen him or known him. And they haven't gotten it. And it's not that they're earning their way into heaven or somehow their good works cancel out bad works. That never made any sense to me, any more than if somebody fed 1,000 starving people and only murders one, that somehow their good works would cancel out their bad works. I never got where that idea made sense to people, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if someone is claiming to be a follower of Christ, then I expect to see in their actions them following Christ. And if they're not, then not only I, but they ought to question if they really are committed to following Christ or not. I hold that rule to myself in my own life, and I would hope that all Christians everywhere would do that so that we could all start living it out and not end up like the hypocrites that Jesus was so tough on in his own life and ministry. In any case, that's kind of my thought for the day, and even leading into the Arnold, I think that passage will be on my mind. I appreciate all the support and everyone out there, and I hope everyone going to the meet has safe travels and performs to the best of their abilities. In any case, I hope where you're at, you're doing well. Blessings.